Hi, this is Ray of RV Tech Tools. In my video on the update to 2.0.1 version, I mentioned the fact that I was going to do a new video showing why I had to make an incompatible change. So let me show you something. This came about in the 2.0.0 release. As I was using it, I wanted to add a voltage gauge to my set of gauges. Now looking at the spec, I noticed that there is a message number 168, which is the battery potential or voltage for the coach. So I thought, hey, that's going to be easy. I'm just going to use the gauge editor to add a new gauge and then set the parameter to 168 and I'll be good to go. So let's come in here. I'm going to select the gear icon and add a new gauge. Up pops the gauge editor. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to set that PID value to 168. And it comes up battery potential, and that's actually looking pretty good. Now, I know I've got a 24 volt system, so I'm going to put the maximum voltage at 30. And when I do that, whoa, what's going on here? You'll notice that the gauge is jumping between 27 and 13. That didn't make sense at first until I started looking at the data a little more closely. Let's go ahead and save this, and we'll understand why in just a second. So I'll add the gauge, and I'm going to scoot it down, and I'll just kind of move it over down here. I'll move these other ones out of the way so that they're up here. And I'll put that battery voltage right there. Make it just a little bit smaller. And I'll save that edit. And as you can see, it's jumping around just like I talked about. So that's not very useful. What it is I found out that in the CAN bus language, there is an initial mid, or what they call the device that is sending data, and then it's followed by that PID number, which is the parameter identifier. In this case, 168 was battery voltage, and then the data follows. Well, it turns out that more than one unit was posting the same PID. So I went and ran a couple of diagnostics on my... Now let me show you something I don't know if you're aware of that is on the app, but you can come in, select the gear icon at the bottom, and open a debug log. And what this does now is two things. It starts capturing the data from this point on that you can actually send to me, and I can analyze the data you're getting. But when you close it, I'm going to tap the gear icon again, and then I'm going to email the debug log. And this brings up a message like this that's pre-set up to email to me with a report at the very top. Now this might be useful to you. I'm going to go ahead and mail that. But I'm going to go jump over on the computer here where I have a previous copy that I've mailed just to kind of show you what that report looks like. So I'm going over to the editor here, and this is right here a version from the previous application. And I'm going to look for the string PID 168. And you'll notice I find it there. And that's the only ones there. And it has a voltage of 26.8. Let's take a look now what happens if we go into the new app. So the original app actually went in and it simply looked for a message of 168 and sent that down to the gauges. And it turns out, like I said, there were two devices sending different data. So in version 2.0.1, the messages now include not only the PID number, the parameter that we're sending, but it also includes the MID number or the device number. Now this is a report from the new version of the code. Let's go look now. So if you notice now, the report includes the MID number along with the PID. So there's a battery potential. The last version was 13.35 volts. And if I look further in the report, hey, there's another one. Device 136 was also sending that data. Device 136 happens to be the brake system. So let me stop this recording. We'll load up the new version of the code and let's see what happens now. All right, so I've loaded up the new version of the code, 2.0.1, which was released just today, and I'm going to go ahead and just start it without any changes. Now you'll notice, hey, there's the battery potential that we set up last time, but once we connect to the CAN pod and start getting data, you'll notice that it seems to be doing a lot better. It's not flying all over the place. Why is that? Well, let's actually edit the gauge and let's take a look at it. So we'll click on the gear icon, click on Edit Gauges, and I'm going to tap and hold on that battery potential gauge for 2 seconds to bring it up in the gauge editor. Now, if you notice, there's some additional values in the gauge editor that weren't there previously. Besides the PID value, which we set last time, there is the mid value that is associated with the device that's sending the data. Okay, so now this is actually looking better. I now see this is my 12-volt system, so I'm going to go in. I'm going to change that title that I'm seeing on the screen from battery potential to 12-volt system. Okay, and I'm going to go also and set my offset maximum value. Oh, let's bring it down to like only 20, because I don't need, in fact, let's bring it down to just 15. And so now my gauge goes to a maximum of 15. If I'm actually going to set an alarm though, this is kind of one of these inverse gauges that you want to set an alarm if the battery voltage goes too low. So I'm going to put the battery alarm down to like 5 volts. I'm going to set my minor tick interval up to 1. And the major tick interval, I'm going to set it up to 5. So now, if we get below 5 volts, this would alarm if I turn on the alarm. I'll update this gauge, save it, and now we have a 12-volt gauge. So what was that other system? It was actually my 24-volt system, so let's go in and let's add another gauge. So let's add a new gauge. This time, we are going to set this to 136, and we'll set the PID number to 168, and I'm going to change the title on this one to 24-volt system. And almost done. And min value is fine. I'll set the maximum down on that to 30 volts. All right. And now if you notice, we're getting a reasonable display that is sitting steady on my 24-volt system. I'm going to do the same kind of thing. I'm going to bring the critical voltage down to about 10. My warning voltage, I'll bring it up to maybe 20. And let's change my tick interval so I can actually see what's going on. That looks pretty good. We'll add that gauge, slim it down, and bring it down to this one. Oh, I even got the right size. Now I'll go ahead and save that edit. And now I have 2 additional gauges, one for my 12-volt system and one for my 20-volt system. That is the entire reason that I had to go to a different variation on the messages, which made the 2.0.1 release incompatible a bit with the 2.0.0 release. If you have any issues, don't be afraid to contact me. You can always reach me at support@rvtechtools.com. Have a great day. I look forward to hearing from you.